Hi, I'm Sandra Mazili from Inner Action Counselling. You're welcome to visit my website, www.inneractioncounselling.co.uk. And this is my contract walkthrough video. I hope you've got your metaphorical seatbelt on because this is a long one. Generally, after a client has consultation with me and we've agreed to work together, I send my paperwork through. And there are only two documents, my contract and my registration form. There's a link to the registration form walkthrough below this. Both documents need to be read, signed, filled in, and returned to me, ideally before session one. But if there's something you don't understand, bring the paperwork to session one and we'll go through it. But it must, repeat, must be in my possession before session two. And you can't sign something you haven't read and understood because signing it indicates to me legally that you have read and understood. And I get it. Paperwork, lots of words, eek. But it's necessary. And it's part of how I work, to have as much in place as possible before we start working together. And that's my safe, ethical practice. That can be interpreted in more ways than one. Some counsellors have a slim, bare minimum sort of contract. I've had to put up with quite a lot of those in agency work. And to make up for it, I then have to react to situations as they come. And that's no picnic for me or my client. Other therapists keep to a verbal contract. I mean, how does that even work? It's okay if it's very, very short, but trying to remember fine details from memory, I don't think so. There's been times when I've had to say, remember the contract? And there's the bit that goes like, and I've got to drag memory lane or something, and it just doesn't work. Whereas if it's in writing, I can just say, remember page 2 and look it up. Oh yeah, soz. Some therapists don't contract at all and sort of process things organically and keep things evolving. That's not me at all. Now, I know that even the word contract can seem daunting, especially if there are pages of complex language. It seems longer than it is. It's 4 and a bit pages, and it's formatted to look tidy and visually appealing. Without that, it'd be more likely 3 pages. My contract is as simple as I could make it. Parts of it have to be worded in a certain way, especially legal governance and GDPR and stuff that relates to law. I'm making this walkthrough to hopefully reduce any needs for clarification in session time. And it's also useful if you're wondering about working with me and thinking about what am I letting myself in for, potentially. So, excluding the opening paragraph that tells you what the document is, there are 15 sections split into policies, procedures, and general headings. Counselling duration and structure, online and in-person policy, cancellation policy, confidentiality policy, boundaries, GDPR, so that's data protection, social media policy, accessibility, legal governance, fees, complaints procedure, standards and ethics, referral procedure, ending counselling, agreement, and consent. Not exactly a laugh a minute, I know, but let's dissect this. Counselling duration and structure. So sessions take place on a weekly basis at the same time, same day each week, unless otherwise agreed. So during the consultation process, if we've agreed on weekly, then that's what we do. If we've agreed fortnightly, and that's as rare as it would be, I'd only suggest monthly if we were kind of working towards an ending thing, or we've been working together a long time and we can kind of go into a sort of check-ins thing. It probably wouldn't be any less frequent than fortnightly. But again, that's agreed at consultation stage. Each session lasts 50 minutes. Again, we agree that at the outset, and if we need to extend, like, for example, if we're doing exposure work and having a general session as well, or we're doing skills building, things can take a bit longer, so we might extend it to 70 or even 90 minutes, but we would talk about that. We'd never have a 50-minute session and we get to 45 and like, oh, we're carrying on, are we? Right? All that kind of thing is prearranged. And that says it in the contract. If the duration needs to be changed, that's discussed collaboratively. If the number of sessions is not agreed at the outset, we will work in blocks of 4 to 6 sessions, followed by a review. So every 4 to 6 weeks, however often we decide to put this in, we'll have a review period. It won't take an awfully long time, probably 10 to 15 minutes max, as to what we're doing, whether we'd like to continue working together or not. What's the relationship like? Is it working well? Is it not? If not, why not? We go for it. So online and in-person policy. Counselling takes place via Zoom or FaceTime, so that's video. If the line drops, I'll attempt to reconnect immediately. If irrevocably technological issues occur, check out my lingo. The session will continue on the telephone. Now, it might continue through text, but most likely it'll continue on the telephone. But we discussed that, if not in the consultation during session 1, how do you like me to continue the session if we get cut off? All of that is agreed. Text-based sessions use live chat, so traditionally on Zoom. So you might have our cameras off if that's how you feel comfortable. It might be muted as well. Some people like to keep everything on, but it's the chat function. So that's synchronous. And if the connection is lost, again, we'll continue via email. So the session will still be the session. It won't be like emailing me at 9 and you might reply at 4. We've still got the 50 minutes to email each other. And email sessions act that same way. So although it's asynchronous, it's kept to reflect real time as closely as possible. So again, with that 50-minute session, we're emailing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The method of delivery, whether it's online, phone, or text, must be agreed at the outset. So we won't be chopping and changing. 1 minute we're on the phone, then we're on video, and then we're like, you know what, I feel like texting. We agree at the outset what kind of communication method suits your needs the most, and we stick to that. And then just the conditions sessions can take place. So remote sessions take place. You must be in a private, safe space, a stationary location, not driving. This comes out of session work that I've had, and I've learned the hard way. I phoned somebody, or we've doing a Zoom session, and they feel that driving and hands-free is okay. It's not okay. Either you're concentrating on the driving and not concentrating on us, or you're concentrating on us and the road is not concentrated on. So stationary location, both of us must give our full attention to the session. So you can't be, writing work emails or doing the ironing or something else at the same time. Even though it seems like a good use of time, both of us need to concentrate. I'm giving it everything, and I expect that from my client. You're responsible for ensuring your own privacy and confidentiality, including securing your location, your device, and internet connection. So, for example, I'm in my office and I've got the office to myself. It's not an open plan, something or other. For the sake of argument, if it was, I'd use headphones, but I don't have to do that. You may feel that you need to use headphones. Having a radio outside or just by the door and turning it up slightly can help muffle the sound at the other end. So there's ways we can discuss how to ensure your privacy if you haven't quite got it together just yet, either in consultation or session 1. Cancellation policy. There's no charge for a cancelled session with at least 48 hours notice. 24 hours notice or less, 50% of the fees are due to me. Unexplained absence is a full session fee. So I'm there and waiting for you and there's no communication from you. That's an unexplained absence. And some people have tried to kind of circumvent that by kind of writing to me literally like 2 minutes to. That really isn't good enough. If you attend while incapacitated, this is considered an unexplained absence. Translation, you turn up drunk, stoned, bit of both. That's an unexplained absence, because there's no point saying you're here when you're not really here, as it were. I could go on and on about psychological contact and how present you are if you're drunk or stoned or both, but I won't. It's an unexplained absence. If I cancel at short notice, I will reschedule with you. A session cannot proceed if you're over 25 minutes late, because that's more than half the session gone. You're under the influence of a harmful substance. See, I've said it again there more explicitly. You are experiencing medical symptoms which prevent focused participation. So translation there, if you turn up to the session and there's half a bone of your arm sticking out, you're like, well, I'm here, aren't I? How can you possibly give your full attention to the session if there's a medical emergency that's utterly, utterly bad? Environmental factors. So like if really, really bad weather is happening and the line's dropping and I can't even get hold of you on the phone, then we can't have the session. Now, I'm not going to charge you for that. But, the session can't happen. All sessions are confidential. I receive regular supervision in accordance with National Counselling and Psychotherapy Society regulation and guidelines. My supervision is also bound by professional confidentiality, and any client content discussed is anonymized and used solely for ethical clinical reflection. So I'm not going to talk to my supervisor with identifiers like, that James Bond in Egham. So annoying. Right, I might talk about, I've got a client, we've had this many sessions and they came to me with depressive symptoms and it turns out that was masking the sort of grief that was from 10 years ago. Right, not any identifying information. Confidentiality may be broken if there's a serious risk of harm to yourself or others. That's not others as in the general public, as in your home or where you are, there's a risk to you or others, so other family members or whoever you live with in the vicinity. I'm bound to break confidentiality if you share information suggesting involvement in drug trafficking, or you reveal information that might indicate harm to children or vulnerable adults. So anything about terrorism, just think of anything risky, really, and you've got it covered in that. And apart from terrorism, I would discuss breaking confidentiality with you first. I wouldn't be like, yeah, ta-ra, see you next session, and the next thing you know, you've got the third party contacting you. I would talk to you about it. That's what I need to do. From time to time, I may share fully anonymized content from sessions on professional platforms to support mental health awareness. No identifying information is ever included. I'm kind of saying it like that to demonstrate that I'm reading it directly from my contract. So, like I did a minute ago, I might share stuff about client work in blog posts and YouTube videos. But again, no identifying information. I've had lots of clients over the last few years who've been bereaved by suicide. That doesn't really say anything about anyone in particular. You don't even know if I'm talking about one-to-one or group support, because I do a lot of that, or helpline work. If I'm sharing something specific, I will ask you first. So I know there's one client I had very recently who does something interesting on special days to commemorate their relative with lanterns and things, and I'll make a video about that at some point. I have permission from them to share that. But again, I would never use any identifying information. Boundaries. Psychotherapeutic counselling is talking therapy within a person-centered framework, encouraging professional insight and autonomy in a non-judgmental space. Pretty proud of that line. So, person-centered, you know what you need. Sometimes the relationship is the therapy itself. And I use other things as well when appropriate. So just to say that if you are a client from the Person-Centered Association, I use person-centered and person-centered only. If you're not from there, then I can use other things as well, again, where appropriate. CBT, psychodynamics, or body-centered awareness, including breathing, drawing, writing, or movement. And always kind of non-touch. I'd only touch you if there was a first aid issue. And you might say, well, you're only working remotely. That isn't really relevant. I'm future-proofing, guys, because I will be in person at some point. Not this year, but that will happen. If we meet in public, I will not acknowledge you unless you choose to approach me. Counselling will not be discussed in public settings. I mean, some of these things you might say, isn't that obvious? Well, it isn't really until you actually say it. So between sessions, this is still part of my kind of boundaries heading. For logistics or brief check-ins, email is preferred. So response time is 24 to 48 hours. That's during the kind of business week, so Monday to Friday. If you're emailing kind of late on a Friday night, you can expect a reply from me on Monday. If phoning, please leave your name, number, and a time to call back. For urgent mental health support, contact crisis team. So GDPR or data protection, and your data is managed under the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, and the Data Protection Act 2018. I give the HTTP link in my contract in case you want to look it up. You might want to. You might not. You're like, oh, crying out loud, get on with it. I'm registered with the Information Commissioner's Office, that's ICO. So as a data holder, I'm legally accountable to them. And I store my records. So that's filled in contracts, notes, messages if applicable. So if we're doing email counselling, I tend to delete the email thread after the session itself. And I suggest you do the same and just make notes on what you want to retain and remember. You might find it useful to go over it and over it. But yeah, it's safest to just delete these things. So I keep any paperwork securely stored and password protected, and it's paperless. Process notes are kept for therapeutic use only and deleted 3 months after counselling ends. So however long we're working together, whether it's 3 weeks, 3 months, or 3 years, after we've finished working together, they're deleted. Progress notes are retained for 7 years. And that's a legal requirement. Well, the legal requirement is 6 years actually, but if there was an issue like a court case or something, I've got a year buffer. And look out for a video on the difference between process and progress notes. Third-party access is only granted via court order or a subject access request from you. And the only notes that can be submitted are progress notes. So in a nutshell, process notes are kind of my own kind of ins and outs, nitty-gritty about therapy and the sessions and what we're doing. Progress notes are very short and almost perfunctory. So time and date, how long the session was, objective information about how my client presented, whether they were happy, sad, angry, confused, laughing, crying, or yawning all the way through the session. And then other bits and pieces about what we may decide to do next time and what we discussed. So if you're talking about long lost somebody reuniting with the family or being kicked out of the house, I might do a one-liner about family conflict discussed. That's the kind of thing that is accessible through a court order or subject access request. So I hope that's cleared up. Text messaging is not used. I can't guarantee your privacy with that. So I don't text, and you can't text me because my practice phone number is a landline number. No recording is permitted. I don't record sessions. I don't allow use of AI Companion or any other transcription-y software in sessions. This is a bit of the contract I know I'll have to update over time as technology gallops along, because it does change so much. 2 years ago, I don't think I'd heard of AI Companion. Social media policy. I do not accept friend or connection requests on social media. You may view or follow my professional content, but I cannot respond to comments or shares or direct messaging. So I might, reply and acknowledge receipt and things like that, but I won't go into any detail. So if you want to ask me something personal for the sake of argument, I would stick to emailing me, hello@interactioncounselling.co.uk. I wouldn't ask me something personal on a public messaging board thing. I take security very seriously, and I hope that's apparent at this point. Accessibility is the next heading. I aim to make my counselling service as accessible and as inclusive as possible. If you require any adjustments to the format, communication style, or materials used in our work together, please let me know and I can make suitable arrangements. So it is what it says on the tin, basically. Legal governance. I'm based in the UK. Jurisdictional limits are the UK, the Channel Islands, and the Isle of Man. My counselling practice is subject to English and Welsh law. My insurance provider directed that, they dictated it word for word, I kid you not. So if my insurer tells me to say something, I'm not arguing with them. So I live in England and I'm subject to English Welsh law. If you live outside the UK and relevant laws are different, I'm not legally bound to abide by them, so check that there's no clash. So if you're thinking of working with me, find out what that means. Sessions must be paid for in advance via direct bank transfer. So if you're having a session on Friday, then I would expect payment at the very least by Thursday night through direct bank transfer. Complaints procedure. I'm an accredited registrant member of the National Counselling and Psychotherapy Society, NCPS. In the contract, I give you the title of the complaints procedure so you can search the website and look it up. Standards and ethics. I abide by the NCPS Code of Ethical Practice. There's an HTTP link there in case you want to look up exactly what that means, and you might want to look it up. I'm not stopping you. Referral procedure. Counselling may or may not be suitable for all situations. And at the outset, so during consultation, we assess whether this service is appropriate for your needs. And if another form of support would be more beneficial, I will discuss this with you. If needed, I'll refer you to another suitable service. So that might be another counselling or therapy service. It might be something else entirely. So that might happen at the outset. It might happen during the course of therapy where we're working on something or multiple somethings, and we might hit a snag far down the road where I feel I'm not trained to help you in whatever it is. Or there might be another reason for that that generates a necessity for us to stop working together and help you find somebody else. But again, we'd discuss it. It wouldn't just kind of happen. Ending counselling is the next heading. You're free to end counselling at any time. Where possible, I'd encourage us to discuss it and work through that decision process. It could be a safe, planned ending and a respectful one. And I may also suggest ending if I believe therapy is no longer appropriate for your needs. In either case, we'll aim for a collaborative ending together. Last leg, guys, agreement and consent. By confirming agreement through one of the following methods, my client confirms they have read and understood this client-counsellor agreement and agree to participate in counselling under the terms described, consent to the use and storage of their personal data as outlined in the GDPR section in accordance with the General Data Protection Regulation GDPR and the Data Protection Act 2018. So by signing the document, you acknowledge that you understand everything that I've just said. So if you don't, talk to me about it. So you may confirm your agreement by either of the following methods: typing your full name and the date at the end of this document and returning it to me via email, or sending a brief email to me stating that you have read, understood, and agree to the terms of the agreement, including the GDPR policy. So the final bit, it just says, please use one of these methods and return it to me, ideally before session 1, but absolutely, definitely before session 2 begins. But I appreciate you may still have questions, even after reading the contract and sitting through this walkthrough. You may still have something you want to ask or something you want to add to the contract. You might think, well, it doesn't say anything about that. So if that's you and you want to work with me, then get in touch. I hope this has been useful. Like and subscribe if you want more content. Most of my content that isn't walkthroughs will be a lot shorter than this. So until next time, take care and bye for now.